Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome this fear of public speaking or just fear of communicating with other people, with strangers, and random people. The fear of public speaking is referred to in scientific terms as glossophobia. And believe it or not, it is one of the most common phobias in the world. So if you have this fear of public speaking, or you feel a bit anxious communicating with strangers or with random people or with new people that you meet, you are not alone. There's a lot of people who have this fear because of a thing in rational emotive behavior therapy called catastrophizing. People catastrophize the scenery that they put themselves in. They start to envision all the worst case scenarios happening. So let's say you go to a club meeting with the Toastmasters International and you're a guest there and they ask you to speak. They ask you to stand up and introduce yourself and speak a bit about yourself. And it's not a huge room, it's 10 to 15 people. Now what's going to happen if you have a fear of public speaking or glossophobia is that in your head, you are going to start imagining the worst case scenario. In your head, you're going to see a vision of yourself standing up and starting to speak and people are just throwing tomatoes at you. But it's not like that. That's why we catastrophize it. We make it a lot worse than it actually is. And one of the biggest reasons we fall into this pitfall is because of the fear of judgment. Okay. Now, at the core of glossophobia, at the core of the fear of public speaking and the fear of talking to other people and this social anxiety that we can build up is at the end of the day, the barrier is a fear of judgment. We don't want people to judge us. When we want to talk to somebody and we don't really know what to say, in our head we're like, okay, if I go talk to this person and I don't really know what to say to them, I don't really know how to communicate, they're going to judge me in a bad way and I don't want that to happen. I'd rather not talk to them and them not judging me at all than then having them to judge me in a negative way. Now, it is understandable. A lot of us, we have a fear of judgment, maybe not just with public speaking, but with everything. When we talk about the concept of society, we want to be accepted. We want to be a part of society. We want society to judge us in a positive way, not in a negative way. So when we see ourselves in front of a situation where we can encounter this negative judgment from our social circle or peers or acquaintances, we usually have two choices. We either face that fear, whatever happens, happens, or we just try to avoid the scenario or try to avoid the conversation by all means. Now, obviously, since this is the most common problem in the world, or at least one of the most common problems, there are plenty of solutions that you can start using today to overcome the fear of public speaking or to overcome this social anxiety so you can actually go out there and start talking to other people, start networking, start building your network, and start developing your communication skills, okay? Now, the first method is actually a challenge that we're going to talk about later on. There's going to be a sheet attached to the course if you're taking the course or to this video if you're watching it on YouTube. And it's a little PDF planner that's under the title of the 30-Day Challenge. Now, what is the 30-Day Challenge? It's 30-Day Communication Challenge to be precise there. What you're going to do for the next 30 days, you don't have to invest a lot of time. It's going to take you 2 to 3 minutes, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. But for the next 30 days, every single day, you're going to communicate with 3 to 5 people. What this is going to allow you to do is first, you're going to get your daily repetition of talking to people you don't know, talking to people you don't usually talk to, talking to people who you see often but you never develop the courage to talk to. And I'm not saying go there and have a full blast conversation with them. At least say hi, smile, test the waters. You want to have some sort of interaction, okay? In this 30-day challenge, the main goal is interaction and not conversation. Because if you have this social anxiety building up inside of you, or you have this fear of public speaking, Nobody can expect you to just go out there and start having full-blown 1-hour conversations with strangers. It's not going to happen. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to run out of topics to talk about until you develop your communication skills more. So when you're trying to do this 30-day challenge, the main goal is for you to do 3 to 5 interactions a day for 30 days. What this is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to see that sometimes maybe you are catastrophizing. When you see somebody and you really want to talk to them, whether it's somebody that you like or maybe somebody you'd want to work on some business proposal with, or somebody you want to go talk to your boss and ask them for a raise, whatever it is, right? You want to start by doing some minimal interactions, some low-stake minimal interactions, just for your brain, your reptile brain, to understand that there's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing to be scared of, okay? Now, when you go to the PDF file, the 30-day interaction or communication challenge, there's going to be a bit more information about how to do the challenge effectively, but I would highly, highly recommend you to do the 30-day communication or interaction challenge if you want to become a better communicator, or if you want to get out of this shell of social anxiety or glossophobia, fear of public speaking, okay? Now, the second thing is you need to practice your vision. You need to practice your vision. If you, right now, you're watching this video or you're taking this course, and in your minds, you have this vision of who you want to be as a communicator. If I ask you to pause for a second right now and just close your eyes and just think about who do you want to be as a communicator, as a proficient communicator, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself walking into a room of strangers or maybe a room of people you work with and then doing a great presentation, leaving people feeling inspired and motivated? What is that vision that you have? Do you see yourself walking into a room with your shoulders broad, with your head up high, with a big smile, walking there with confidence? Or do you see yourself walking into that room with your hunched back and being really shy and really reserved? Now see, if you want to be a really good communicator, you got to have this ultimate vision of who you want to be, because you got to build it up in your head before it can actually manifest in your reality. So you're trying to teach yourself or your brain certain communication skills to get to that vision. But if there's no vision, if there's no end goal, your brain doesn't even understand where to start, where you are, and where you need to go. But when you establish this vision of yourself, this person that has so much confidence that if you're at the bus stop and you see somebody that you want to talk to, you will just walk straight to them and talk to them. It doesn't matter what they say, whether they like it or not, whether they tell you that they're having a bad day and they don't want to talk to you, it doesn't matter. It's between you and you. It's you taking out the time and putting in the effort to push yourself and to discipline yourself enough to overcome the barriers of judgment and social anxiety. Go out of your way, out of your shell, to that person and just say hi. And you never know how the conversation is going to go. And if it doesn't go anywhere, it's fine. Because what you're doing is you are developing your thick skin and you are developing your communication skills at the end of the day. Number 3, I want to talk about the 3-second rule. Now, this rule, it can be 3 seconds, it can be 4 seconds, it can be 2 seconds. It really depends on the person and how fast their their fight or flight reaction is. Because what happens is when we want to talk to somebody, a stranger, or we want to put ourselves into communication interaction with anybody, if we have any reason to be hesitant, if there's anything about the conversation itself that might be a bit stressful or that might put us on edge, we need to act fast. Because if you pause for 3 to 4 seconds and you start thinking about it, you start putting yourself in a state of stress. And you're going to see that happen so often. I'll give you a really good example. You see somebody walking in the street and you think they're very good looking. You want to go talk to them, right? You stop for a second and you look at them and you start thinking. Before you know it, your brain starts sending these visions. you talking to them and then the worst case scenario happening, them slapping you in the face or whatever, right? Because as soon as you stop and you start thinking instead of actually doing, your brain automatically says, hey, why are we even thinking about this? Are we putting ourselves in a situation of threat? And you start stressing about it. You start overthinking it. That's why you're going to notice that whenever you want to do a specific interaction with someone, if you hesitate, if you pause, you're most likely not going to talk to them. But if you just clear your head, don't listen, or if you just clear your head, you don't listen to that voice in your head. And actually Mel Robbins, she's a brilliant author and brilliant speaker. She talks about the 4-second rule, which is you basically have 4 to 5 seconds to really control the decision-making process in your brain, right? And her method, that whenever you want to overcome a habit and whatnot, you count from 5 to 1 backwards, and then you go do whatever you want to do without overthinking about it. Right? So let's say you want to talk to somebody, you go in your brain, you start overthinking it, you just stop. Go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go talk to them. Another thing you can add on top of it is that while you are counting backwards from 5 to 1, have a vision in your mind. A positive, an optimistic vision of you going to talk to that person and them being very agreeable, them talking back to you, then you having a really nice conversation, and then you hit 1, you don't need to think about anything. You just go there and just say hi. Just say hi. Say, how was your day? Say, have a good day. Doesn't matter, right? It's just taking that step to make your brain understand that there's nothing to be scared of. Number 4, and this is one of my favorite methods when it comes to situations where people are a bit hesitant or stressed. What's the worst that can happen? I want you to, if you ever see yourself in a situation where you weren't able to kind of take yourself out of this position where you start stressing and overthinking, you didn't follow the 3-second rule and you just went there and spoke to the person, you start overthinking it, I want you to do that. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Now really, what's the worst that can happen? You want to talk to your boss about a raise, or you want to, let's just take that example to begin with. You want to talk to your boss about getting a raise. You're not just going to sit there and expect them to know that you want a raise and then they will automatically come to you and say, hey, you know what, I think you deserve a raise. But if you go talk to them, you never know what's going to happen. Now, what's the worst that can happen? If you go to your boss and say, hey, I've been with the company for a couple of years now and I think I'm adding a lot of value to your company. Do you think it's a fair idea for me to get a raise? What's the worst that can happen? They're either going to say, you know what? Yeah, you've actually been working for a long time and you've been adding a lot of value to my company. Let's talk about a raise. Or they'll just say, you know what? The company's just going through a tight spot right now. I really think we can accommodate that. Let's talk about it in a couple months. What's the worst that can happen? Your boss is not going to fire you because you asked for a raise. Same thing goes for any social interaction. You see somebody, let's say you're at work and you meet somebody who doesn't work for the same company, for example, but you think that they're really attractive. You go talk to them. What's the worst that can happen? You say hi. What's the worst that can happen? You're not going to answer. They're going to say, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone. That's the worst that can happen. And then ask yourself another question. Can I handle the worst case scenario? There's this concept in personal psychology, and a lot of people use affirmations. They look themselves in the mirror and say, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. But guess what? Affirmations don't work unless you kind of feel whatever you're saying. If you just say to yourself, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, but deep down you're sad, it's not going to work. Your brain is going to say, no, I'm not really happy, I'm actually sad, and this is pointless. Same thing goes for this questioning method. We're not pushing for affirmations here. When you see yourself in a hesitant position, if you say to yourself, I can do this, and you start pumping yourself up, it's not going to work. Because your subconscious brain, your reptile brain, can feel the stressful reaction in your body, and it will say to you automatically, no, you can't do it, the situation is too risky, and you start catastrophizing it. But when you question it, when you say, okay, I'm really freaking out right now, I really want to talk to this person for business purposes or relationship purposes, but I just don't seem to be able to get out of my way to go and talk to them, pause and ask yourself, wait, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? They're going to tell me that they don't want to talk to me. They're going to say they're not going to answer. It might scream. Whatever it is. Can I handle the worst case scenario? And your brain goes, yeah, I can handle the worst case scenario. I've been in situations before where somebody said they don't want to talk to me. I've been in a situation before when I spoke to somebody and they didn't answer me. And I was able to handle it. So why can I not handle this? I actually can. And before you know it, you trick your brain into understanding that there's nothing to be scared of. That if you want to do something, you want to go talk to somebody, you can actually do it. And there's nothing that can hurt you. Even in the worst case scenario, you can handle it and you'll be fine. Okay? This is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's hop on to the next one right now.